Average Day. I'm your host, Marley Kaler. Today I'm going to be discussing autism with my friend Megan from the YouTube channel Megan's iCast. Welcome to the show, Megan. I'm excited to have you.
Thanks, Marley. I feel honored to be here today, and I'm really excited too.
No problem. Let's start off by talking about our individual autism journeys. Just a little bit as background. I am autistic, and I was diagnosed with a lot of different things, but the easiest way to kind of say that was to say that I had autism. It's kind of an umbrella term for all the things I was diagnosed with in my early childhood. A lot of my struggles with autism are math-related, sensory issues, and struggling with regulating emotions. What about you, Megan?
I think my biggest problem is communication. I have some sensory issues too, but those most often flare up when I'm already in a bad mood. When I get annoyed or frustrated, I'm always on the verge of losing it to the point where it's a next to uncontrollable whirlwind. I've also got some OCD issues, and I don't have the broadest range of interests. However, I can and do understand figurative language very well, as is the case with more autistic individuals than it appears.
I feel like my sensory issues get the worst when I'm sick or in pain. I have some health issues like kidney stones, etc., and it can make the sensory issues get way worse. Anyways, now that we have a bit of background, I would like to begin by talking about something in the autistic community that I want to give more insight on and kind of warn others about. That would be Autism Speaks. I know that you've made a video talking about it before. Would you like to tell people what Autism Speaks really does? And what organization or organizations have you found that people should actually support?
The reality is that Autism Speaks is a hate group. They act like autism is a quote-unquote disease that needs to be cured. I've said this before and I'll say it again. No, it isn't. Unless you have it yourself, chances are you know jack squat what you're talking about. It's a neurological difference that we're born with, and we will have it for our entire lives. It shapes who we are in more ways than one. There's absolutely no cure for that. What Autism Speaks does in terms of advertising is fear-mongering, and no one who runs it is actually on the autism spectrum. Forget lighting it up blue. Forget using the puzzle piece. Instead, you should support organizations that are run by autistics, for autistics. As far as I've heard, the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network is one of them. Another thing, use the term autism acceptance, not awareness.
Another thing that I've heard about Autism Speaks is that they advocate for eugenics. Eugenics, basically, from what I understand, is when they do testing on an unborn child to find out if they have any type of disease or mental disability. After they do the testing, then parents decide if they want to abort a child based on if they're neurodivergent or have any other disability. Autism Speaks basically wants to not stomp out autism, but stomp out autistic people. I feel like this can be a really harmful and dangerous thing. I agree too with the whole autism acceptance, not awareness. We don't need to be changed. People need to change. We have as much of a right to be here as the next person. If you want to support us, take a minute and try to understand us. Or search out organizations like the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network that are run by autistic people for autistic people.
Jeez, Autism Speaks is even more disgusting than I thought. I think we better move on to something else. What about autism representation in the media, common misconceptions, etc.?
Sounds good to me. I think we should start with common misconceptions. The one that I've seen the most is that autistic people aren't empathetic or don't feel emotions. I'm a highly empathetic person and feel a lot of emotions. I feel like autistic people are perfectly capable of feeling emotions, but not all of us have the words to express it. Are there any that you would like to talk about?
Tying in with what I mentioned earlier, another misconception would be that autistic people don't have a sense of humor. Having quite a sense of humor myself, I beg to differ on that one. I'm always out there cracking jokes, making sarcastic statements, and stuff like that.
Exactly. I feel like that one is so messed up because I myself make a ton of jokes and get a lot of jokes. Another misconception that I've found is that all autistic people are the same. That is so not true. Just because you know one person with autism doesn't mean you know every single person with autism. I've also found that a lot of people will say you don't look autistic. Like, what is that even supposed to mean?
Autism shapes literally everyone differently. There's not two autistics who are exactly alike. I don't think people always realize how autistics often understand more than it appears either. Then again, some don't understand as much as it appears. Just because we may be skilled in one area doesn't mean we're skilled in another.
For real, you can't judge a book by its cover, and that goes for neurotypicals as well. We should just treat everyone as an individual. I feel like this isn't a misconception as it is a stereotype, but I found that a lot of people see autism as a cisgender white man that acts like a child. I don't know if that makes sense, but a lot of characters that are portrayed as having autism are like this, so that's what a lot of people see it as. When in reality, anyone can be autistic.
We're human beings just like everyone else. And cisgender white men. What? Women can most definitely be autistic too. I'm a transgender woman and I have it.
We are human, and we all can discover ourselves just like everyone else. I have found that it's helped me to open up a lot more as I've allowed myself to discover who I am and what I believe in. I recently discovered that I am asexual and gray aromantic. I also found a lot of clarity when I chose my own pronouns. I feel more empowered using she, they instead of she, her. I love that we all have our own journey with our sexuality and gender. It's a beautiful thing.
I use she, her, but just curious, what's gray aromantic?
Gray aromantic means that I only feel some romantic attraction or feelings. So, like, I enjoy some aspects of romance but not others. That's the best way I can think to explain it.
Got it. I mean, we all pretty much have our own journeys with just about everything we can think of, don't you think?
Definitely. Okay, now that we've gone over a few misconceptions, I definitely want to talk about good and bad media representation. I want to first start with someone I think is a great representation. It isn't specifically stated in the series, but this character is autistic coded, and the creator of the show, Dan Harmon, was diagnosed with Asperger's. The character I'm talking about is Abed from the show Community. I haven't seen the full series, but I find Abed to be really relatable, and he's funny too. I love that it shows him goofing off with his friends and having interesting things about him. He isn't one-dimensional.
I've heard Dan Harmon is autistic too. I know him as the creator of Rick and Morty. However, I think it's worth pointing out that Asperger's isn't in the latest DSM. They got rid of Asperger's and PDD on OS in favor of autism spectrum disorder. Whether or not anyone from Rick and Morty is autistic, I'm not entirely sure. Cartoons never really explicitly mention their characters as being autistic, so their fans like to headcanon things.
I didn't know that Dan Harmon created Rick and Morty. That's so cool. And I didn't know about Asperger's being removed from the latest DSM. In Community, Abed is hinted at having some form of autism, but it's never stated. I feel like headcanons are great for finding characters that have similar traits that you have, etc., because a lot of characters aren't stated as autistics, or there are just underlying tones.
How about Tina Belcher from Bob's Burgers? Or was that just a joke in the premiere episode that didn't age very well?
I've seen quite a few episodes from earlier seasons, and I'm not sure if it was a joke or not. A lot of people headcanon her as being autistic.
Well, whether she is or not, she's the funniest of all the Belchers. I actually cosplayed as her when I went to see the Bob's Burgers movie this past summer. I still wear some of the same stuff I wore for that, especially the skirt. And the Converse sneakers.
That's so fun! She is super funny. One character that I wanted to bring up while we're on the subject is one that has been stated to be autistic in the series, and has things to back that up. It's Sean from The Good Doctor. I've seen bits and pieces of The Good Doctor, and I feel like Sean is a really good representation. He kind of feels like a win for the autistic community.
I'm not too familiar with Community or The Good Doctor, though. I'll have to check them both out sometime. Big Bang Theory, on the other hand. Sheldon seems to be a stereotypical representation.
I was seriously thinking about that. He is the most stereotypical representation I can think of. My parents were big fans of Big Bang Theory when it was running, so I have seen some episodes. One thing I really don't like is how he is the butt of the joke. It feels like they're always just hurting him or making fun of hurtful things.
I don't think the guy from Rain Man is supposed to be accurate either. Let's not forget about the infamous movie Music.
Who could forget Music? I haven't watched Music, but I have heard so many negative things about it, including the main actress is not autistic. I don't know who that movie was supposed to be for.
If you're gonna have an autistic character, the actor should be autistic too. Fortunately, there's Lock and Key. It has a recurring character, Rufus Whedon. Of course, he's not explicitly stated as autistic, but his actor, Kobe Bird, is.
I wanted to bring up a short film I watched recently on Disney Plus called Loop. They actually cast a nonverbal autistic girl to play a nonverbal autistic character. It was a really great short film and was very well researched. But I think it's so cool that the director actually wanted to learn about others' experiences and make sure she created something accurate to some people's experience living with autism. I thought it was a huge stride for media representation. If Sia had taken the time and used the resources she had to actually cast an autistic actress and make a movie that was more authentic, then maybe people would have actually enjoyed Music. Research, love, compassion, understanding, and listening can really change a project and make a world of difference for autism acceptance.
Well, what do you expect? She obviously supports Autism Speaks.
Yeah, I looked it up, and that's who she did her background research through.
That's what you get for using him. You got completely misinformed.
Agreed. I think that is all I have for media representation. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about while we're here?
Let's take a look at how autism shapes who we are in terms of interests, perspectives, identity, and how it makes us unique altogether.
Sounds good to me. I feel like for me personally, I feel like I am a lot more interesting in terms of interests. I am not afraid to go against what everyone else is liking. I'm a lot more open to new ideas and different perspectives. I feel like I understand those who are not what society views as normal, and that helps me to make friends with all types of people. I don't know who I'd be without autism because it's how I've always seen the world. I've always seen the world without boundaries or strict rules. I see how things can change and be better. I think outside the box that neurotypical society has placed for everyone. I really like how since I am a very one-track minded person, that when I find something I'm passionate about, I can devote all my attention to that for a time and put my heart and soul into it. I feel like when I accept myself for who I am, autism and all, I'm a much happier person. What do you think, Meg?
For me, autism shapes a whole world filled with all sorts of fascinating things, whether it be nature, food, video games, music, movies, comedy, and television. So much pop culture. Sometimes I get a unique perspective of my surroundings. I'd say my YouTube channel best exemplifies this, making it a world in and of itself that I think all types of people would really enjoy immersing themselves in.
I can definitely see that through your channel. Is there anything you'd like to share about your YouTube channel? Or do you want to tell people where they can find you on social media?
Well, I'm on Discord as Megan's iCast 6318, and I have an Etsy shop too. So if you guys check out the film I put up on my YouTube channel a couple years back, that's on video cassette for $8.99, plus shipping and handling, of course. Except I made the film before my gender change, and the shop is still called Michael's iCast.
And if you watch that movie, look out for Slightly Average Day in the credits because that's me. I sang a song and I played a small role. I think with that, we should wrap up the episode. I think if you take anything from this episode, it's that everyone deserves to be respected, regardless of how different they are. Please make sure to check out all of Megan's stuff in the episode description and all the other resources I have linked. And thank you so much, Megan. This was a lot of fun. Maybe we could do another episode in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me here today. I've had a blast. In the meantime, check out my channel. I'll see you again there. And Marley will see you guys again in the next podcast.
welcome. And thanks for tuning in to Slightly Average Day. Bye.